This is the LEETV, Long Erstwhile Elapsings. It's the show where we talk about things that happened a long time ago, like yesterday. Today's topic is the Indian Revolution when India got their independence and split into Pakistan. This is brought to you by your host Jared and your narrator Abhishek.
Yeah, man, I'm just pulling all these news on Pokemon Online. Oh, there we go. Flamethrower for the win. There we go.
Jared, we're starting!
Oh, yeah, gotta go. Hello. My name is Jared Oogagabadoobadoo. I am 1/6 of an 8th Indian, and we'll be talking about the Indian Revolution. So obviously, as you can see, I have a PhD in this concept. We'll be discussing many topics like this, such as Gandhi, the Salt March, imperialism, so on. And we are going to be starting off with the topic of imperialism. Of course, the imperialism is when the British power overreigned over top of the existing kingdoms during the course of the 18th century in India. Before, there were two major warring empires. That's two, less than three, more than one, two. It was the Maratha Confederacy and the Mughal Empire. Of course, the territory did overlap each other, and they were constantly at war. The Mughal Empire wanted to convert the Hindus to Islam, and especially the Muslim Emperor Aurangzeb at the time. The Maratha Confederacy were known to be freedom fighters. They were fighting for religious freedom for both the Hindus and the Muslims. Their leader was known as the What does that say? Hold on, give me a minute here. The Chhatrapati, the Chhatrapati, the Chhatraburger patty, the Chhatrapati. That was right. So, can we restart the scene?
No.
Okay, so the Chhatrapati, which means the King of Kings. These two kingdoms were belligerent. This was decided before the British came into the picture of India, and it proved advantageous to them. The East India Company. The company claimed sovereign territories throughout all of India. This is basically the wealth of the company. The British warred with the two existing kingdoms. The two kingdoms were already at war, so they were easy pickings for the British. Now the British monarchy imposed an indirect rule on India. The Crown made all the decisions in the government, and the Indian Rajas merely just enforced their laws. The British rule politically unified India as a whole. This brought stability to India, but the stability had a price. The Crown taxed the produce that the Indians made in return for this stability. Between the 18 and 1900s, 30 million Indians died from starvation due to these taxes. They also traded cotton so that they could ship it back to Britain, make clothing, make t-shirts, and then sell the same cotton, now in clothing form of course, back to the Indians at unjust prices in order to get more cotton to restart this unjust cycle and rip the Indians off really, really bad. The British also owned a salt monopoly in India, so they controlled all the commercial salt sales. So all the salt you bought had to be through Britain, or else it was illegal and you could be jailed for it. The British also commandeered the world famous, and also the largest diamond in the world, the Kohinoor diamond. It's the biggest diamond in the world, and it's still part of England's crown jewels. It was originally owned by Maharaja Ranjit Singh.
Maharaja Ranjit Singh.
Thank you, cameraman, who should not be talking. This is my dang show. Anyway, these conditions all led up to the Indian Revolution. And we'll be back right after this break.
You better buy Frosted Flakes, or Mr. Tiger will get you. Jared, we're back.
Anyway, about Gandhi, this is what he looks like. As you can see, he is a very, very old Indian man. His full name is Mohammedas Karmachand Gandhi. Mohammedas Karmachand Gandhi. He was a key figure in the revolution that led to the Indian independence. And he was definitely not illiterate, especially since he studied law in London. While he was in South Africa as a lawyer, he experienced the racism and discrimination, the same type that the Negroes were facing here in America.
This is important because his experiences in South Africa laid the foundation to his beliefs and principles, which later gave him strength to take out the British in India.
At the African court, the magistrate asked him to remove his turban, which was obviously against his culture, and he refused to. This is when he realized the British's true intention was and how discriminatory they could be, and he decided to take a stand against their ideals. When he left back to India, he kept these principles and led a revolt against the white man's oppression in India.
And Gandhi was so Christian he was Hindu.
It's true that Gandhi was extremely nonviolent. His philosophy was to turn your other cheek when an enemy strikes you.
You went against the cotton trade.
It's my turn.
Fine. I'll turn it over to my assistant, Abhishek.
Dude, I have more degrees than you.
I'm the main host.
Gandhi told the Indian men to spin their own thread from the cotton that they harvested by themselves.
My enthusiastic self is trying to say that Gandhi told the people of India to cut out the middleman, that's the British, and start making their own string and cloth from cotton using the mini spinning wheels instead of buying the cloth from the British. This is a good example of Gandhi's nonviolent principles of ahimsa.
This is what the cotton Gandhi out in the public was using the spinning wheel to demonstrate his rebellion against the British rule. Spinning wheel was used to make cotton thread, which was used to weave cotton cloth, which is called cutter.
The British were infuriated. The British soldiers went house to house and searched for the mini spinning wheels and smashed it to pieces if found, because it was a symbol of hope and independence.
They hid the spinning wheel in the King James Bible. Here's a replica of the King James Bible, the book that thinks it knows everything. They would never look for something so illegal inside something sacred like a Bible.
Gandhi also led the non-violent Salt March. The Dundee Salt March was a revolt against the salt laws in India. Salt is essential for everyone's metabolism. The British salt tax made salt too expensive for many Indian peasants, so many of them died out of salt deficiency. The ironic thing was, salt is readily available on the shores of India. Any peasant can go ahead and acquire salt for free on the coast, but it was illegal. On March 12, 1930, Gandhi led a march which began in Ahmedabad and went on a 240-mile course to Dundee, which took 23 days. It was along the west coast of India. Gandhi went town to town and told everyone to make their salt and revolt against the British rule and laws. Many Indian men and women joined this march, and this turned into an epidemic for the British. Millions broke the salt laws, and salt was illegally being sold everywhere. On May 4th, Gandhi was arrested, but the damage was done. This salt march triggered a major civil disobedience, which gave Indians the guts to refute many more of the British laws. The British government couldn't handle all of the civil disobedience by the Indians all at once. The government was at chaos.
My turn not to.
What?
Yep, and my turn. Hi there, we don't need you anymore. So, there was this guy named Muhammad Ali. Ali and Gina are both girl names. What is up with this dude? Oh, you know, I'm going to do some pronunciation key.
Muhammad Ali Jinnah.
Muhammad Ali Jinnah. That's how you pronounce it. Muhammad Ali Jinnah. He was a lawyer and he was a politician.
He's also the person responsible for the fracture of India into Pakistan. He's also a Muslim enthusiast.
In 1929, he posed the 14 points of Jinnah. In the future legislative body of India, he wanted there to be a law that said at least 1/3 of it had to be Muslim. Jinnah was not quite as popular as Gandhi. Gandhi, he wore no pants or shirts. He just wore like a toga. But this appeased the Hindu people because he stuck to traditional beliefs. Eventually, he called for the creation of another state called Pakistan, which means the land of the pure. If he did not get Pakistan, he threatened direct action, which he did end up declaring in 1964 in Calcutta in August 16th. This led to a religious civil war similar to that of the Crusades, but with Hindus and Muslims rather than Christians and Muslims. 4,000 died and 100,000 were left homeless from this war, and religious safety was questionable. And 1 year later, George VI granted Pakistan their independence and their freedom, and they broke from India and were no longer under British control.
Jinnah's Pakistan wasn't a result of peace. It came out of religious turmoil. There was a mass migration of Muslims into Pakistan from India, and the Hindus and Sikhs that lived in Pakistan migrated to India. Almost 2 million people migrated in total. There were countless refugees as a result of this. Most of them died of starvation. The migration wasn't peaceful. A day after the Pakistani independence was declared, the Indian independence was declared on August 15, 1947.
Gra